Oh, here we go. We're live.
All right.
Here we
Technical
go.
difficulties.
Technical difficulties to be sure. And we'll just let everybody come on in the room. And we appreciate everybody's patience with us this evening as Tom and I have been battling these technical difficulties. And I don't know why we would be experiencing technical difficulties these days, Tom. It's not like a couple big things have happened or anything like that in between our
Yeah.
show. And of course, I'm referencing Quinn Meinerz and his monster new contract. What is up, everybody? I am Luke Patterson. He is Thomas Hall. It is time for MHI. You can catch Tom and I every Wednesday night. We've got a fun show tonight as we talk about Quinn Meinerz getting a bag. The belly definitely got paid. He's bringing home the bacon. We're going to talk about that. We're going to debate how that's ultimately going to impact some future signings. We're going to get into some other Broncos news of the week, including Terrell Davis, maybe a little bit of that. We want to hear from you, Broncos country. But before we do, Thomas Hall, how we doing?
Doing good. I didn't hear the news when it happened. So, I was busy and stuff. I was pleasantly surprised to see that they locked up Quinn Meinerz because for me, he's kind of one of my favorites on the team, even though he's a guard and, nobody cares about guards and everything like that. But I was pretty happy.
Yeah, I was pumped about it as well. I mean, he was one of my first scouting reports that I did at the Senior Bowl. I mean, I got to scout Quinn Meinerz, Jonathan Cooper, and Baron Browning for the Broncos right there. There are some dogs that get away. There always are, like Noah Gray. Broncos could have had Noah Gray. I absolutely loved him in that Senior Bowl as well. But yeah, Quinn Meinerz locked it down. The Denver Broncos announced on Tuesday that they agreed to a 4-year, $80 million contract extension with right guard Quinn Meinerz. Now, Tom, he was heading into the year with $3.36 million as a base salary. He's looking at $18 million. So a fat pay raise, at least in terms of salary. Now, this ultimately ranks fourth highest among NFL guards, third specifically for right guards. It's a $20 million annual average, which is tied for third in the NFL and tied for second among right guards. How do you feel about this contract? Well deserved, well earned?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think he's probably the best offensive lineman on the Broncos line. And he's coming to his own. Like I say, you don't sign somebody for what they have done. You try and sign them for what you think they're going to do. And I think he's just got even more better play in his future. So as far as it goes of him getting this contract, I'm happy with the play. I'm happy with the future prospects that Quinn Meinerz has. Over the next course of a few years, that money isn't going to seem like a huge deal. It seems like a big deal now, but it's not a massive contract down the road. So when you look at it in a bubble, I'm happy about it.
I am happy too. I like to say that I discovered Quinn Meinerz. It was me and nobody else, Tom. So I take credit. Broncos country, you're welcome. But no, seriously, there's a little bit of arrogance, but there's a little bit of truth in that because I was my first Senior Bowl. I was down there. I didn't know anything, still don't, right? But you get feelings about certain guys, and we were all there, all of us in the scouting community, just happening to discover this diamond in the rough. And it was so much fun to write about. It was equally as fun to see them draft him. And man, I'm pumped. I'm pumped that Quinn Meinerz got this fat contract. He started 39 games, 45 games total played. He started every game, all 17 last year, Tom. Only allowed 2 sacks. I know how much you love Pro Football Focus, and Pro Football Focus has him just an absolute beast in the run blocking. As you've mentioned all season last year, he's turning 26 years old, 6'3", 320. What's not to like about Quinn Meinerz? And speaking about what's not to like, how about Saturday night with DVA and Ron White? Although you never know when Dylan's going to be on, Tom. Dylan likes to make appearances here on MHI, and apparently he likes to make appearances on Building the Broncos. I've seen him on Dove Valley Deep Divers. You never know when you're going to find Dylan. So
right.
Be sure to head on over to milehighhuddle.com and read up Dylan's latest. What up, Broncos country? Please make sure you hit that like button on the way in, share on all platforms, and please subscribe if you have not done so already. Let's say what's up to the fellas and the ladies. Todd Ostendorf, what is going on? David Yonkin was first in the building. Evening all. I hope that Quinn Meinerz' fat contract doesn't impact PS2's contract negotiations. This was an idea we were kicking around on text today, Tom. And I'm not trying to scare anybody. We're not looking for clickbait, right? It's not like the Broncos don't want to pay Pat Surtain. Everything that they suggest when it comes to Pat Surtain and an extension tends to lead people down the road, specifically Broncos country, that it's going to happen. All right. It's just interesting the way things go. And what do I mean by that? Pat Surtain was the number 9 overall draft pick in the same draft class as Quinn Meinerz back in 2021. Everybody loves the dog on George Payton. I do too. But when you look at Quinn Meinerz, that's a definite win and a green check mark in Georgie's win column.
Yeah, and I don't want it to affect Pat Surtain too, and I don't think it will. I mean, the fact that he's got the 5-year option, by the time his contract really hits, all that's going to be, the dead money's all going to be a wash. I don't think this contract precludes them from PS2. But what I will say, and you heard me, I love Quinn Meinerz, one of my favorite players. I think he deserves the pay raise. I think he deserves the contract. But if it precludes them from getting an elite player at an elite position, an impact position, that's the only time that I'm going to be like, wait a minute, maybe this wasn't such a great deal. Only because guards are important. Offensive line's important. I've said it. I love the guy. I love that he got this contract. I just don't want it to impact something like from edge rushing, cornerback, tackle, something like that would really help this team kind of get over that hump. I don't think a guard necessarily does that, even if they are great.
It's really not going to negate that because it's already happened, Tom. They already overpaid on Mike McGlinchey, right? So that happened before the Quinn Meinerz deal. So that is a little bit of a relief, I think, for both of us, because I think we were both very disappointed with Mike McGlinchey last year. I'm not gonna speak for you on Ben Powers. I thought Ben Powers left a lot on the table last year, and he could have done better. He did not play as poorly as Mike McGlinchey. It's tough, and we're going to get into the Broncos offensive line. I ran the numbers, and they're expensive, those big boys up there. So we're going to get into some of the numbers. But before we do, let's say hi to Ron. Ron's been very patient in the show. Broncos are showing love for Quinn Meinerz. Meinerz was 1 season away from free agency. PS2 is 2 seasons. The Broncos could wait on Pat Surtain's extension, or at least later in the season. The concern should be, what does Courtland think? Ron, with all due respect, thank you for joining MHI. I don't care what Courtland Sutton thinks. Courtland Sutton should go away, in my opinion. The Broncos should have figured this out. I'm done with it. I'm mad at the Broncos. I'm mad at Courtland. You guys couldn't figure anything out in between the time that Russell Wilson came and went as a Denver Bronco this last offseason. Shame on all of you. I love Ron's mention here and Ron's point. Ron, this went totally over my head. Thank you for bringing it up. They have some time, and they're in the same draft class, right? 2021. Quinn Meinerz, obviously, 3rd round pick. Pat Surtain, top 10 pick. It's going to be a huge pay difference, especially considering the cornerback position, as Ron mentioned. They're not in a hurry, though, right, Tom? I mean, or are they? Because last I checked, those numbers are always going up. Cornerbacks are a very elite position. It's hard to find good ones. He's obviously looking to reset the market. If they wait 2 years, it could be even more than if they had got it done now.
Yeah, but they should actually try to do something now, because the contract won't kick in until later. They're already going to pay him $19 million for his 5th year. So, it's not enough. Expensive to have him around. And I'm not saying that, that's not his worth or anything like that. But Pat Surtain, they can work on something now, have it, have that extension happen after the 5th year option. And that's when they have all this relief from the dead cap that they're carrying for Russell Wilson. I don't think it's a problem to do that. And to talk about Courtland Sutton, the difference between Courtland Sutton not getting paid and Quinn Meinerz getting paid is Quinn Meinerz has earned that extension. Courtland Sutton got an extension and then didn't earn that extension after he got it. He was hurt or he was not playing great. So just go out there and earn your money and then get paid, Courtland, if you're upset about it. That's my only advice.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to look at it. We're talking about Pat Surtain. Will his contract be affected after the Broncos gave Quinn Meinerz a fat bag? And it's interesting that you bring up Courtland, but I don't think Courtland really plays into this conversation, Ron. I know that he's a fan favorite, and would I like him to be on this? 100%. I want him there with Bo Nix, but I want Pat Surtain there as well for a Bo Nix, Tom. I want to see Pat Surtain teaching Bo Nix what it's like to play against an elite corner in practice. I want those two working together. I think that could help curb some of the rookie learning curve. There are still going to be struggles, folks. I know we're excited. I am just as excited as everyone else to see what Bo Nix looks like. Hopefully week 1 is the starter. We don't know. We're going through our it's conspiracy season right now, Tom. I don't know if you know that. We talked about it before the show. We went through our conspiracy theories with the Broncos last Wednesday night. We went through the schedule. We see a little topsy-turvy, maybe a Jarrett Stidham week 1 preseason. Maybe you see Bo Nix week 2 debuting under the Mile High City lights in prime time on a Saturday night. And then week 3, you could get Zach Wilson, and hopefully that rolls over into week 1, Seattle, Bo Nix.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm trying to fix Twitter here. We're not live on Twitter. Or for some reason, I don't know what's going on. We're having technical difficulties. So yeah, sorry about that. What was your question, Luke? I apologize.
Oh, I'm just talking about how I want, our conspiracy theories are usually correct. And this is the season of conspiracy theories. Just check the news. Us going through it, the preseason schedule last week, we figured it out. Sean Payton is going to start. Hopefully, Bo Nix week 1. Why? We went through it. Jarrett Stidham's going to be the preseason game number 1 starter. And then Bo Nix is going to be preseason game number 2 starter because he's going to make his debut in the Mile High City under the lights. I know it's just preseason. And then game 3, we're going to give that away to Zach Wilson just to keep everybody guessing and could take a little heat off of the Bo Nix versus Jarrett Stidham. I am praying and hoping that we have one Bo Nix starting regular season game number 1, and I am happy that he has Quinn Meinerz to lean on at the right guard position, man. Bo Nix has to be feeling pretty good today that his big man is happy up front, the right guard slot.
Yeah, and let's hope that Ben Powers and McGlinchey kind of live up to their contracts too. I mean, let's not forget about the other offensive linemen who are very well paid that didn't come in and make fans happy about the contracts they've signed. But I still think that Ben Powers, I still think Ben Powers was a good signing. He didn't play as great as I had hoped last year, but I think things can get better. The one I'm most worried about is McGlinchey actually living up to that contract. And then they got to figure out center. So yeah, they locked up Meinerz. There's still some question marks on the offensive line.
Oh, some question marks on that offensive line, and it is expensive. We're going to get into that in just a second, but never a question mark. Always a friend, always showing love, much support. Michael Marquillo, what's up out there in Arizona? I was thinking about you, baby. Good evening, Luke and Thomas on the Mile High Insiders and Go Broncos. We had that nasty heat wave roll through the Mile High City on Friday through Sunday, Tom, and man, it was brutal, and it had me thinking about Mike out there in Arizona, who's just a DOG dog. He deals with it all day, every day, and I'm sitting here in the 99, 101 degree weather in the Mile High City going, damn, I can't handle it, but Mike can. He's out there in the desert, does it every day, working outdoors.
Yep. Yeah, it's hot here too, man, and very, very humid. Luckily, this will be the last day of it, but it's just, when I moved from New Mexico to here, it was a dry heat. It was hot and it was rough, but man, it's just something about being sticky all the time. I just can't get used to.
I know it, man. I love Florida. I love the vacation there. We love going to Florida, but that's something that I have to combat as well. That humidity is different. And it's so crazy how the weather could be so different in different spots and still equally as hotter than hell in the entire country. Phil McLaughlin teeing off. Good evening, Luke, Thomas, and Scott. Who is next to get a contract? Hashtag Buckham, MHH for life, and Broncos for life. I would say it's got to be Pat Surtain. He has to be priority number 1. If it was Courtland Sutton, that deal would have been done already. Not to beat this dead horse, after Pat Surtain, who would you say is a priority? Because it's a really good question coming from Phil, and I think that's where he's going with this. Pat Surtain's obvious because you know that the Broncos want to lock him down. We hope he wants to stay in Denver. You never know. You know he's going to want to reset the market, but there's only so much pie to go around to everybody. If you spend all your money on Quinn Meinerz and Pat Surtain, what are you potentially left with?
Yeah, and that's the thing is I don't think there's anybody that's up for a contract that's not expendable at this moment, right? They're either young and they haven't proven that they need that big contract. I'm talking about like Jonathan Cooper or Baron Browning or Benito. I mean, I think you could live without those guys if you had to. The safeties, they there isn't one there that you're like, oh, you got to bring in. I mean, really, I can't think of one like that would be ready for a contract that's not proven or is older and they're like ready to go away other than Patrick.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Right there. Say that again. They're older and they need to go away. They're also, I would say a little bit nicer because I've always been more delicate than you, Tom, especially on the airwaves. I would say a little more, they're fan favorites. Right. And you're right. Because they're fan favorites, it makes it all the more harder for Broncos country and us, even me, to accept that maybe it's time for these guys to go. I'm pulling it up just as you're talking about looking at Denver Broncos 2025 unrestricted free agents. And Phil, thank you so much for the support, guys. Your super chats and superstars go a long way, especially in the offseason. They help MHI keep these lights on. We appreciate it. Primary players, you're looking at Garrett Bolles. What is going on with GB? Are the Broncos willing to long-term commit to Garrett Bolles? It seems like we talk about that every week, Tom, and this disastrous offensive line when it comes to tackles. I mean, there's so many inconsistencies. Mike McGlinchey's not going anywhere. At least his contract suggests that. But, Tom, 4 out of the 5 starters for the Broncos yield $65.5 million combined in average salary. Quinn Meinerz officially leads the pack at $18 million. These are approximations. Mike McGlinchey's right behind him at $17.5 million annual, and then Ben Powers $13 million and Garrett Bolles at $17 million. You've got the center position that's up for grabs, and that's really where they're the little orphan Annie kid in the center, because you got Luke Wattenberg, you've got Alex Forsyth, you've got Mustafer. That's roughly $910,000 to $1.125 million.
Yeah, so on their rookie contracts or whatever. Yeah.
Exactly. So you look at it, what's going to be the future at the left tackle position? Did the Broncos address that in free agency this year? No. Did they address it in the draft? No. And Kathy Lund, I hear you. I like Frank Crum too, baby. Go Pokes, go Cowboys. I'm all about that Wyoming life up there. I love those folks. But I am not willing to go Frank Crum, unrestricted, undrafted free agent, immediately replacing Garrett Bolles next year. I mean, what is the succession plan there? It's hard. It's hard to figure out when you look at Garrett Bolles specifically becoming a free agent in 2025.
Yeah, and I don't think he's in their future plans either. I think he's part of the old guard, and they're ready to move on from that. So I don't feel like he's in their future plans, at least not for another big contract. I mean, if he accepts a 1-year deal or something like that, sure, but I don't think he's going to be around. He's an older player. You know, he seems like he should be, but he came in as an older player into the league, and you know, they're probably ready to move on from him. I just yeah. Are
you ready to move on from him? Me too.
I am, if they can find a replacement. Obviously they can't, but they can't invest a big amount of money into him to keep him around because they haven't been drafting offensive tackles. That's their fault, but they're going to have to figure out something in order to move on from him. I just don't, you know, like I said, I don't think these old guard folks are in their future plans. I think Sean Payton wants to mold it in his likeness, and that's you can't do that with, you know, the players that were drafted and intended for, you know, to play a certain way and were liked by different management and different coaches.
And you hit on something right there real quick, Tom, the mismanagement of Sean Payton. We need to hold him accountable in the media and in Broncos country for not effectively using Ben Powers and Mike McGlinchey the way they were intended to use, which is the run game. I don't have to tell you that, Tom. You talk to us about it every single week. The pass protection suffers drastically on that entire offensive line. The one thing that they did pretty well all of training camp, they did okay at times, was running the ball, and then they would abandon it and just go into this pass game. Sean Payton cannot abandon these players. He cannot abandon the financial commitment that he's made to his 2 starting guards, Tom. He just had to have Ben Powers. You have to have Quinn Meinerz. For the love of sweet God, can we run the ball? That will help Bo Nix immensely. Ernie Mays, thank you for the love on Facebook. Hello, Luke and Thomas. Go Broncos country. Look, Bo Nix is going to start. Believe that. Man, I would love that. I would love that. You know, Sean Payton wants to prove everybody wrong and say, nah, I told you Bo Nix was the man.
And he should be starting. If he's not starting next year, then they're going to have to go back to the well and try and find somebody else. He has to be able to take the role, even if it's close. I mean, as a rookie, he's going to have his struggles. He has to take on the role of the starting quarterback this year in order for people to be comfortable that he is going to be the future of the franchise. And I think they're going to roll him out. They like you said, they may wait a week but he's going to be starting, and it's going to be soon in this 2024 season.
This world is crazy. This world is divided. Broncos country is united in the nice poem, right?
Yes.
In the fact that we want Bo Nix starting. Nobody wants Jarrett Stidham starting week 1 on the road. If there is one thing that is for sure, I don't know. Can we say we can guarantee it? Broncos country wants Bo Nix to start week 1. No hard feelings, Jarrett Stidham. I would love Jarrett Stidham to be here forever as the backup quarterback. Be here forever. Be best friends with Bo. I hope your wives are friends. I hope you guys have kids and they go to the same school. You guys be best friends. It's nothing against Jarrett, but Bo Nix was brought here to be the franchise quarterback. Did we finally get it? Did the Broncos finally get it right? Did they finally draft their franchise quarterback for the first time in team history? Man, that's the biggest question.
Let's hope. I can just keep my fingers crossed and hope that they did it. Really, David, thanks for the super chat. I have not yet. We are still looking for a house. It's miserable.
David Yonkin coming in here for our podcast fans asking, Tom, what's the deal? Have you finally gotten settled yet? And Tom is a vagabond, man. He's on the road right now, being an outlaw. I can never quite pin him down. I need his coordinates. He's, like Carmen Sandiego. It's like that's Thomas Hall right now.
Yeah, hopefully soon, but it's going to be a little while. The housing market's just not been favorable for us, so we're still looking.
To be fair, Tom, the housing market is not favorable for anyone right now. Not to go down that road, man, but these times are hard. That's why we appreciate your guys' super chats so much and your donations. And if you can't donate, that's cool. Your time is much more valuable. We appreciate that as well. And you guys can catch us every Wednesday night. Thomas Hall and yours truly, MHI, 6 p.m. Mountain. Oh, arguing, giving us hell. Here he comes. You know him, you love him. He's our very own Keith Brugman. You ornery goat, you. The Broncos would be wrong in thinking that Bolles can be replaced at left tackle, in my opinion. They don't grow on trees. Keith, you're exactly right. I could sit here and talk about how I'm willing to move on from Garrett Bolles, but what does that leave you with? A big gaping hole at that left tackle position, because Tom's right, Keith's right, Broncos country's right. The Broncos have done themselves zero favors drafting and developing players, period. What is the last position that the Broncos drafted and developed well at? I'll wait. I mean, that's upsetting.
Maybe guard.
Guard. There he is.
Yeah,
guard.
I think they've done an okay job at safety. I think they've drafted fairly well at safety, but this, over the last several years, decade, I think you can't really go back to the well and say edge rusher, because Von Miller was the last elite edge rusher. So they've had their struggles. I mean, PS2 is the one cornerback that they hit on. They haven't really hit on any others. And so, yeah, it's been rough. But again, I don't think that I'm agreeing with Keith here on it's hard to replace the left tackle. They don't grow on trees. Garrett Bolles is not an elite left tackle, though. He's a good left tackle. He was benefited greatly by them relaxing the holding rules when he got his All-Pro. But other than that, he's not been an amazing left tackle. The Broncos need an amazing left tackle in order to compete in the NFL, in my mind. They don't have it. Whether they want to get rid of Bolles or not is kind of irrelevant. They need to upgrade from Bolles. How they do that should have been in the draft, and they haven't done it. So they're kind of stuck.
Well, and he's regressed, too. Every year he regresses. I mean, he's not getting any younger. And here's the thing, too, on Frank Crum. He's a right tackle. He's not a left tackle. I hope he can play swing tackle. It's his rookie year. We can't just assume that, Frank Crum, just because we like him, he's going to come in and be great. The only reason Tom wants Garrett Bolles gone is because he wants Alex Palczewski to be the starting left tackle, which I am curious. He did well in training camp. He did well in the preseason. He is their depth player, really, when you look at the depth chart for the Denver Broncos right now. He's the only backup I really feel curious about. I mean, Quinn Bailey, you know what you have in him. He's a serviceable backup guard. The center position is an absolute nightmare with Sam Mustipher, Luke Wattenberg, Alex Forsythe. Calvin Throckmorton will be backing up Quinn Meinerz, and God willing, there's no problems there with Quinn. Again, he started all 17 games last year, Tom. We don't talk enough about how much that is a rarity really, in the NFL, specifically at that position. That's a testament to this man taking care of his body, keeping himself healthy, doing the right things, good fortune, right? Training staff, those resources. But for an offensive guard to start all 17 games, play 45 games in his career, and 39 of those he started. That's pretty impressive for a young start for Quinn Meinerz.
And
Kid out of D3.
Sorry for cutting you off there, Luke. I don't think it's talked about enough that this entire offensive line really played all year with their health. They stuck together, and it still wasn't a great offensive line. It was good. It wasn't great. There was a lot left to be desired. I think that's why when you look back and you say they were healthy all year, they had that continuity, they should have been a better unit together. Now, there was problems with the offense. There's problem with the quarterback. I get it. There's not a lot of elite players. You would hope that sticking together that long, by the end of the season, they should have been really good, but they weren't. That's why I think there should be some upgrades. And those, that upgrade, the only one that you can really upgrade at the moment is, over the next year is probably left tackle, because you're kind of stuck in those contracts. Center, obviously, you can as well, but they're trying to figure that out. So
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how the Broncos ultimately pivot. Again, 4 out of the 5 starters yield a $65.5 million average salary combined. That's a ton of money for your starting 5, really. I mean, I know we don't know what's going on at the center position, but good Lord, the Broncos have paid their linemen. Bo Nix, man, they're building this for you. Let's hope it can work. David Yonka coming in, $4.99 super. Thank you so much, Dave. Happy Wednesday to you. Let's say we hit at the quarterback position. What would the draft look like next year? Tom, I see you getting excited already, because this is one of our favorite questions, because we've been begging for these 2 positions for so long. I'll just stay on it so that way you can get into what you really want to talk about. Left tackle, right tackle, you need to build this offensive line. I see that we have serviceable guards. What are you going to do at the center position? That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a left tackle or a center, specifically in rounds 1 and 2 of this draft. But I know Tom feels another way, and Tom's got another position that the Broncos desperately need to upgrade in. And if they drafted this position, Tom, you wouldn't hear a peep from me.
Yeah, it's edge rusher for my mind, because they lack an elite one. And I get it. You want to build from the trenches, and we're going to have to see how this works out through the year, because this could change. The offensive line might be better. McGlinchey might, come around and be what they envisioned. The offensive line might be solid, but I still don't see anybody making a huge jump into elite status on the edge rusher. It's possible that Benito gets there. I don't know. I got to see more from him. I was very impressed from his rookie to sophomore season, though, because he did everything that needed to do to get better. They said he needed to put on. He did. They said he needed to put more pass rushing moves into his repertoire. He did that. So hopefully he does. So maybe by the end of the season, I'll say, okay, Benito, you don't need to go after edge rusher. But right now, looking at it, they need someone to get after the pass rusher, or after the passer, and they don't have anybody on the team right now that I'm confident can do that. I mean, I think inside pass rush with Jack Allen, Jonathan Franklin Myers will be helpful, but I still just don't see anybody that's an elite pass rusher on the team.
No, that's the question, Dave. Who's going to put Pat Mahomes on his back and be an absolute nightmare? That's the question. We know what it looks like with a corner. Yeah, interceptions are nice. I'll take them 100 times. Please, Pat Surtain, get some more. But who is going to put 15 on his back? That is the biggest question. That's how you beat the Chiefs. And even then, I'm seeing this guy play, and I hate to say it, Tom, I really do, because I can't stand him. But the guy is tougher than a $2 steak out there. He can play on one leg. He can throw with the other arm. Pat Mahomes does things that you shouldn't be able to do as a quarterback and athlete in the NFL. It blows my mind. So I agree with you. You gotta figure out a way to diminish that. The only way you can diminish that is to physically punish him as much as you can within the rule book. That's what you have to do. And the Broncos don't have that killer shark. There's blood in the water every once in a while, but there's never the killer sharks. There's never the wolf pack to come and clean it up. That has got to change. David Papa Bear coming in here with a $5 super. Good evening, Broncos country. Luke, Tom, and Scott. God bless the United States of America. Hell yeah, baby. Hashtag 12 and 5. Buck 'em. MHH for life. Denver Broncos for life. Because Bo knows Nix for 6, and you gotta Bo leave. I absolutely love the alliteration when it comes to being cheesy. So the fact that David comes in here and hits us with the Bo knows, Nix for 6, and Bo leave, that shirt writes itself.
That's right. Yeah, thanks, David. Appreciate it. Appreciate your optimism for sure. And God knows I need it. I'm not very optimistic, and so you're a breath of fresh air coming in here with
Hell yeah.
So we definitely appreciate it, even though sometimes we can be a little pessimistic. But hopefully we won't be. Hopefully during the season when we start seeing some victories, we start seeing Bo Nix being the kind of franchise guy that we're all hoping. We see some of these young people. Players step up and become better, we're going to have a lot more optimism if that happens. So, yeah, thanks, David. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we need some more dubs here in Broncos country, and David's ready, and he's ready, man. He's ready to have good times here in Broncos country again. So we get a good times. Our guy Patrick Wiltsey is always giving us good times from his rock out there in Hawaii. Aloha peeps. It's that new Insiders hat. Probably talking about, no, this is a Broncos hat, believe it or not. I had to flip it on backwards so that way I'm not repping the logo. I could try to be objective. Got some new colors, right? The wife and the kid got me this one. It's the old school D. It's my favorite logo. Trying my best to not be a fanboy right now. So you will have to excuse me, Patrick. But I would love for you to get the hat that I normally wear. It's the hat that the handsome Thomas Hall is wearing right now on these airwaves. And I'm trying to find our link. Head on over to mhhmerch.com and get your swag on. It's got our Colorado flag in there, MHI, our logo, big hot microphone that we spit into every 6 p.m. Mountain Wednesday night. And we really, really appreciate the love, man. It's cool to see everybody repping our gear. Let's let it loose with the fellas tonight and the ladies. I want to hear what you guys think about Quinn Meinerz locking down a fat contract, 4 years, 80 mil. Man, you're Quinn Meinerz yesterday. That you inked that deal. How you feeling? What's the first thing you buy? Who's the first person you call? You're calling mama. Mama, what do you want? What you need, mom? Dad, what you need? Like, what do you, could you imagine?
Yes, I can imagine. See, the funny thing is once in a while I buy a lottery ticket when it's big, and then the fun part is not knowing that I'm not going to win, but the fun part is to imagine all the things you could do, the private island or whatever it may be comes to mind. So I can imagine a lot of things. So if I was ever in a situation where I got a contract like that, I would be ready to, I would know who and where to spend my money, I guess I would say.
Yeah, that's that would be cool. Well, and Quinn Meinerz comes from humble beginnings, as do most NFL players. Really, you don't see a lot of spoiled rich kids that made their way into the NFL and that are starters. I mean, I think they're few and far between. It's cool to see a kid that comes out of a small town, Hartford, Wisconsin. Man, that's pretty neat. Wisconsin Whitewater. The pandemic, his senior year of football was canceled. He's out there pushing over trees, learning the center position. We all thought he was going to be a center, Tom. I mean, Let's go back in the Wayback Wind machine, and you could still fire it up over at milehighhuddle.com. Click on my link and go back to 2021. You could read my Senior Bowl scouting report on Quinn Meinerz, Baron Browning, and Jonathan Cooper. Loved them all. But, man, I thought he was going to be a center. I mean, why the hell isn't he? We need help at the center position too. Quinn Bailey is serviceable. I mean, it's just funny the way things work out. He is definitely more comfortable in his guard position. He feels that way. The Broncos feel that way, but it's kind of interesting to look back and see, his work ethic and commitment are ultimately what got him paid. It wasn't the position. It wasn't learning how to snap to garbage cans. It was doing all the work when no one was looking.
Yeah. Yeah, and you have to remember, too, he came from a small college. He had to have time to develop, and that's why they didn't throw him in at center. You've got more responsibility at center. Put him at guard. You don't have to think as much. And not that you don't have to think. I'm not saying that it's a mindless position, but not quite the same as, throwing him in at center. Just let him go out there and play and develop, and that's what he did. And, I keep saying that he has done, he's made those steps, those development steps from his rookie year to now where you can project what he's probably going to be the next few years. And that's why I like the contract, because in my mind, that progression has continued to go up. and he's going to be one of the better guards in the league. And that money is worthwhile. They're paying for what they believe is going to happen. And so do I. It's not somebody that really, they're kind of declining and they give him a contract to keep him around. They're expecting this guy to get better and better.
100%. You need him. You damn well better need him when you've got a rookie quarterback in Bo Nix, when you've got Chris Jones against the Kansas City Chiefs. You see defensive tackles coming out now trying to be cloned like Aaron Donald. I mean, they're getting smaller, but they're stronger and they're faster and they're quicker. And I mean, it's bizarre. I need somebody to combat that. And I don't need some has-been Richie Incognito type guard coming in, a big name just to fill the void. It doesn't work. Cole coming in here. Cole, thank you for joining us over on Facebook. It's real important I got to you, Cole, because this is the second comment coming out of Broncos country. You and Ron are thinking about this. This isn't on my radar, but we try to represent Broncos country as best we can and as many diverse opinions as we can. Will Courtland Sutton look at Quinn Meinerz extension as a sign that Sean Payton's future vision for the Broncos doesn't include him? 100%, Cole. You know why? Because Sean didn't even consider what Courtland would think. The Broncos never considered what Courtland would think. They almost deserve each other. We talk about that. I'm so upset with both of them, Cole, why they couldn't figure it out in between the time Russell Wilson became a Steeler, got a new catchphrase. I mean, all the craziness that's happened in between now and then. He's out there boxing. He's with Justin Fields is on his team. I mean, look at all that has happened since the offseason. And for whatever reason, the Denver Broncos and Courtland Sutton just can't come together over $3 million. That's what I'm hearing what it is. That's what we've all heard what it is. No one's breaking any news or telling any tales out of school here, Tom. It's ridiculous. I think the bigger question here, Cole, is what does it mean for Pat Surtain? Because his number's going to be bigger. What's the salary cap going to look like? We're in salary cap hell post Russell Wilson. I mean, you're right to ask what the ramifications are. But on the human side, Tom, you're Courtland Sutton. Quinn Meinerz just got a bag. How you feeling today?
Well, again, if Sutton was in the future for the Broncos, that $3 million wouldn't be a huge task for them to do. And he's not. And I don't think a lot of, like I said earlier in the show, many of these old guard folks, these players that are from the old regime from a while back are not in the future plans. You see him, I mean, Justin Simmons being one that's gone. I mean, you see them leaving. I just don't think he's in the future plans. Now they want him next year. He's going to be a reliable target for a rookie. They want him to be there, but in the next couple of years, I doubt you're going to see Sutton on this team. And maybe Garrett Bolles. There's going to be a few of the old guard they're not on this team anymore.
I like to get after Dylan because Dylan's ornery and Dylan's my guy. So, no, it's a good comment here because we're talking about the wide receiver core. We're talking about depth. We're talking about contracts. We're talking about decisions. And the debate is being waged here in Broncos country, specifically here on MHI. Broncos country love themselves Courtland Sutton. They should. Look at what he did last year for that offense. He was the silver lining in that offense, along with one rookie, Marvin Mims, and now freshly $80 million richer, Quinn Meinerz. I mean, those three players alone sort of carried any sort of heartbeat or resemblance of a pulse for that offense. That being said, the wide receiver core is a whole lot of question marks too. And I like where Dylan's at here, man. Getting ornery, saying, pardon me if I don't trust Virgil, Bandy, and Johnson, just not holding my breath. Once I see it on the field, I'll believe. Tom, it is so easy for all of us to assume that Tim Patrick's going to walk on that field and be the same Tim Patrick we know and love. It's going to be so rare to make sure that we see an aging wide receiver who's had a history with knee injuries and lower body injuries since college come out there and have his best season. Dylan's not a hater. You're not a hater, Tom. I'm not a hater. We're trying to be real. Is there a realistic opportunity or chance Tim Patrick makes this football team for the Denver Broncos?
Yeah, if he stays healthy, right? I mean, he has to.
If
that's a big if.
We're talking in ifs. That says it all.
Yeah. And on top of it, I mean, of those three guys that Dylan mentioned, Brandon Johnson, to me, the only one that I have confidence in to come out there and play at a fairly high level, but he also has struggled with injuries as well. that's been the problem with this wide receiver core for a while. I mean, remember back when everybody was excited, it was Judy and Sutton and KJ Hamler. They were gonna just be the great trio, and none of them gonna get on the field together.
They wore sunglasses at Minnesota Vikings preseason games, right?
Yeah.
KJ Hamler and Jerry Jeudy up there looking all cool. They were supposed to be the best thing since sliced bread.
Yeah. So there is a lot of question marks, but from my perspective, let's say Sutton does see the field. Say that he's on the team. I still think it's Marvin Mims who has to be that guy, that explosive guy who people are afraid of. Sutton can be reliable. And then, from there's some question marks. I like the guy they picked up from Detroit, but he has a few questions as well. Every wide receiver on this team has some sort of question marks about them, and they have to prove us wrong next year. And that's, I mean, I don't know what else to say about it. They could be really pretty decent. They could be a pretty solid wide receiver core, or they could be pretty bad. I mean, just depending on what happens with the injuries and the ascension of the young folks.
Ascension of the young folks, one folks specifically. We talk about it every Wednesday night. Marvin Mims, folks, pick him up in your fantasy league. I know no one cares about your fantasy team, but that's coming up right around the corner. And I'm going to be doing a league this year, Tom. I'm going to be doing it with my good buddy Charles here in the hood, and usually just do my weekly stuff, right? But I miss talking trash. I miss, having a little more skin in the game. So I'm going to do that. But Marvin Mims, man, I think Sean Payton, you've said it for weeks now. Sean Payton intends to prioritize him. He's come out and taken responsibility and accountability for utilizing Jerry Jeudy when he should have went to Marvin Mims all year. Todd coming in here. Todd, another good friend and supporter of the show. Appreciate you so much. I think we could see Troy Franklin on the field in 4 wide receiver sets. I know folks are excited about Troy. Troy and Bo, best friends forever. Yay, Oregon, go Ducks. There's going to be a big learning curve at the wide receiver position for Troy Franklin. I am excited. I was screaming. I'm texting Tom. I'm texting, tweeting everybody when Troy Franklin gets drafted. Holy cow. I did not see this one coming. This has Sean Payton's fingerprints all over it. He loves himself some Bo Nix. He loves himself some Troy Franklin. It's exciting. 6'2", 170. You got to put some meat on your bones, young man. This is the NFL. These safeties and these linebackers, they hit hard and they will smash you. Kind of like the Slim Reaper out there in Philly, right? Time to get in the weight room. Ask Nick Benito about that. Maybe he'll help you get a couple pounds. He will give you some headaches in training camp because it's the rookie curve. He's going to have some drops. He needs to clean up his route running. It doesn't mean that he's not going to be a future receiver. Just try to temper your expectations a little bit, because I could feel like I can see this coming already. I feel like Troy Franklin's lighting the world on fire the first 2 days of training camp, and then there's some drops or a dropped touchdown. And then it's, why did Sean Payton draft Troy Franklin? Just because he's Bo Nix's best friend? There's going to be those moments. They're rookies, and it's training camp. 2 entirely different things than the regular season.
Yeah, and I can agree here that you might see him a little bit because he does have a rapport with Bo Nix. So there might be some of that going on early on. But also, like you said, he's definitely got to put some weight on. He's got some question marks as well. He's got to make sure he's catching that ball. He's got, the reason why people thought he would go earlier and he slipped to the 4th round is because he's got a lot of development to do. But knowing Bo Nix and having that rapport will help him. But I don't think it's a long-term, this year. I don't think it's going to be long-term for this year, so to speak. So early on, you might see some connections, but you'll probably see him used less and less as the year goes on, because he's going to wear out, because he's not, he's still got a lot of development to do. And that, kind of rapport that he has with Bo Nix will be developed through other guys. And it won't be as obvious that, he's as necessary on the field as he was early on. So I like the pick. I like Troy Franklin. But like you said, Luke, there's a lot that he's got to do in order to stick in this league.
Ton of potential, but that's that dirty word that gets everybody fired, right?
Yeah.
Is the potential. He's going to have opportunities, and that's all you can ask for. He was drafted, for crying out loud. And Tom and I went over this last week. We go over it all the time, and go check out Legends wherever you listen to podcasts as well. This team, as Broncos country knows, has a history with undrafted free agents. Just because you aren't drafted doesn't mean you're not going to make this team. Doesn't mean you're not going to go on and have a successful career. But all you're looking for is an opportunity. Troy Franklin not only has an opportunity, he has an advantage over every single wide receiver in that room, even the veterans. because he knows Bo Nix. He knows his tendencies. He knows what he likes. Now it's Troy Franklin's responsibility to figure out the rest and life in the NFL and how can he help Bo Nix. Phil McLaughlin coming in here. I just feel that we have no depth for the offensive line. Why not give Garrett Bolles a 2-year deal? Let him retire a Bronco, draft a tackle to learn. Also, who is going to start opposite of PS2? A lot to unpack there, Phil. I'll take the first stab at it. What does Garrett Bolles want? Is it more important for him to get paid, or is it more important for him to retire as a Bronco? If it's more important for him to retire as a Bronco, I'm all for Denver signing him to a 2-year friendly deal. But if he wants to get paid, which I think he would, why wouldn't he? We're in tough times. This climate is expensive, whoever you are and wherever you are. I would want to support my family. I would want to get as much money as I could, especially knowing that my career is probably in its twilight hour if you're Garrett Bolles and you're being honest with yourself. Tom, what say you? A 2-year team-friendly deal for GB?
I would take that. Yeah, if it's team-friendly deal. Again, like you said, how much is it? How much is it? Are they willing to invest a lot into it? Again, I just feel like I keep saying it, and I'll say it one more time, even if everybody's tired of it. I think Sean Payton's trying to push out the old guard and start something new. So it would have to be a team-friendly deal. And you're right. I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. If they can keep him around till they can draft somebody who can step in, I'm all for it. And the second part of the question, who's starting next to Pat Surtain? I think it's the guy they picked up in free agency, Levi Wallace. Was it Levi Wallace?
Levi Wallace.
Yep, yeah, he's that guy, and I think Riley Moss is hopefully going to develop into something behind him. And then
he'll pass up
Dylan at as the nickelback. So I think that's what you've got for the top 4. And then I think Damari Mathis is fighting for a spot on the roster. He may not make it.
It's going to be tough competition out there for the wide receivers. Keith Brugman coming back in. Broncos country, lucky to have Luke and Thomas. Always appreciate you guys. Appreciate you, Keith, man. You're very, very kind, good friend of the show. Hope you're enjoying your summer with your family. And look at this guy coming in here. Chad Jensen, a $20 super. What's up, Chad? Thank you, buddy. Please like this video. Just give him an opportunity. I'll make the most of it. Troy Franklin, let's go. I think Troy Franklin's already sort of a fan favorite because he's a Bo Nix favorite, right? And we have this tendency, and I think football's the perfect place for it. It's the perfect outlet. It's the perfect vessel. There's so much romance and novelty when it comes to the game of football. And the fact that these two were teammates at Oregon, the fact that they're so close. Were they roommates, do you know, Tom, or am I making that up?
I don't know. I don't know that.
Maybe I'm just going to, in my head, think that they are roommates. I mean, you want to see these guys make it. I'm curious what kind of position, what kind of wide receiver Troy Franklin's going to be, because he's kind of in between, right? He's not an X. He could be a slot, but Marvin Mims should be dominating that. Sean Payton sees something in him, and Sean Payton's not so in love with Bo Nix that he's just going to say, okay, Bo, who do you like? And I'll go draft him. There's a rhythm to the madness. I mean, there's something here. There's a reason for it.
Yeah, for sure. I didn't know Chad was such a Troy Franklin fan, so that's awesome. I think where he was drafted was a great spot for him. I actually think that it was kind of a steal in the 4th round, right? So I think they were able to get him. But again, like we were talking about, he has some development to do. He has some weight to gain. I mean, you mentioned
Slim Reaper,
Shady, but he's not on that level. He doesn't have the same skill set, the same elite ability. So he does have to put some weight on. But yeah, I think it was maybe a diamond in the rough kind of thing, even though people thought that he was going to get drafted a little earlier than he did. So I like the pick, and I think that rushing him onto the field, with the injury possibility and stuff like that, maybe not prudent. But yeah, I mean, I hope he develops into a really solid player.
What do they say? Two's a duo, or two's company, three's too much. How's that saying go? I mean, yeah, I'm forgetting the third wheel here, and that's kind of the point, right? We're forgetting Bo Nix's other best friend who beat him to Denver by a year and won, Alex Forsyth. I'm being facetious here, but Todd's right. Alex Forsyth is in the running for the center position. It is a 3-way tie as far as we are all concerned out here in Broncos country when we look at Sam Mustipher, Luke Wattenberg, and Alex Forsythe. And there is a gentleman named Nick Gargiello, who's officially listed as the fourth center on this roster today, July 17th. It's a wide open position. It's the only position that's not double digit on that starting line for an annual salary. These guys are going to be making between $910K and $1.125 million. But what an opportunity for any of these dark horse candidates. You want to get paid, you want to live in the NFL, play on the Broncos offensive line where they are averaging about $16 million between 4 out of the 5. Do you have any initial thoughts? I mean, Luke Wattenberg, I guess I would say, because I know him, he's the incumbent. I would imagine he's getting some of the starting reps, but it's anyone's game at the center position, and I'm scared to death because of it, Tom.
Well, I was surprised that Luke Wattenberg made the team last year. And I know he has a leg up because he's experienced, and he has versatility. So, I mean, there's reasons why they kept him, but I was surprised because I thought the guy that they picked up, Fuller from the Seahawks, outplayed him in camp. But maybe didn't have as much versatility or something like that, or younger or whatever it may be. I was surprised that he made it. My biggest concern, or what I really, I shouldn't say concern, what I really hated about last year when they knew they were out of the playoffs, when they knew they were changing quarterbacks, they did not give these young guys a chance to start, Forsyth being one of them. I mean, that was an opportunity to put some other people in there and just let them get a little bit more game time experience, and they didn't do it. They just stuck with who they had. I was disappointed. I'd like to have seen some of these young folks like Forsyth go out there and put something on, on game film.
100%. You mean guys like Alex Forsythe. You mean guys like J.L. Skinner. You mean guys like Riley Moss. You mean guys like Alex Palczewski. Need I go on? I mean, Sean Payton needs to get out of his own damn way. Coach, you were brilliant. You were a Super Bowl champion. They are trying to etch you into the Hall of Fame if you get it right with Bo Nix. Get out of your own way. Run the ball. Utilize these players that you have. In order to utilize them, you got to use them. You got to develop them. You got to farm them a little bit. And it can't only be in the preseason, Tom. It can't just be at the scrap time. I mean, you've got to figure out a way to start integrating these guys a snap or two here or there for Troy Franklin. Start introducing him to what it's like being into an NFL starting offense here and there. So that way, when a wide receiver gets hurt, because everybody gets hurt except Quinn Meinerz last year, playing all 17 games, baby, and that's why he got that $80 million bag. But when a wide receiver does go down, it's not as intimidating as it would have been if you hadn't already gotten a rep or two.
And then it brings up questions too, is why not? Why didn't he put him in? Does that mean that they've got a really long way to go to develop? Because that's scary too. Is Forsythe so far from being able to contribute on the NFL field that they didn't feel comfortable putting him out there? That's bigger problems, right? That's, then you're like starting to think, well, some of these later round picks just aren't going to pan out, and they need them to pan out. And I know it doesn't happen very often. I know it's, when you look at the draft, the numbers show that these later round picks don't pan out very often, but the Broncos have to have some of them pan out if they want to compete, because they haven't drafted well and they don't have, their cupboard is bare. So they need to hit on them. And it's, it's one of those things that you look at, like, why didn't they play? Maybe they're not good enough. Maybe they made a mistake in drafting them. I hope it was just Sean Payton didn't want to do it, and that was that.
Maybe Sean's evaluating wide receivers and trying to figure out which ones he wants to get rid of, Jerry Jeudy. Maybe he's trying to figure out if he actually has something with Jarrett Stidham. That's what I mean by getting in his own way. I think sometimes he's so fixated on one piece of his offense that that type of tunnel vision allows these other things to escape him. And you're exactly right. They need to start developing. Look at our guy, William, coming in from across the pond. Luke and Thomas, how are you? London calling. First game against the Seahawks. What are we thinking scoring-wise? Oh, Willie, of course you're going to do this to us here on Wednesday, July 17th. I love it. My whole family are Seahawks fans, and I'm the only Bronco fan. I think 25-17. What do you think? I assume that's 25-17 for the home team, Will. I would hope so. And I am so sorry the rest of your family are Seahawks fans. They are miserable, and they are unforgiving. And I don't hate them like I hate the Raiders. I hate Raiders fan, and I don't like Chiefs fan either. But, man, Seahawks fan upsets me. I'm going to go Bo Nix starts week 1 on the road against Seattle. plays an ugly game. It's an ugly game from both teams because why? It's week 1, and these things tend to happen in the NFL because training camp is not real football. I'm going to go ugly score. You ready for this? 17-14. Denver wins. Last-minute field goal because of Sean's guy, right? Will Lutz. Welcome back to Denver.
Yeah, I wish I could have your optimism for that first game, and maybe they'll surprise us. I just, like I said, there's a lot of development that has to happen. My problem is I just don't think Vance Joseph's going to be able to put the defense out there that comes through in the clutch when they, they win in a close game. I don't know what the score is. I'm with you, Luke. I think it's going to be kind of one of those messy games. But the home team usually comes out on top in those. And so I hope not, but I'd like to wait until I see a little bit of camp and a little preseason before I have to start saying who's going to win the first game.
No, I love it, but that's where we're at, right? We're 2 weeks away from training camp, really, or not even. We're what are we double digit 10 days still? I don't know. We're close.
Yeah,
it's marching right around the corner here. So I love where Williams going. And Williams we got to give Williams some ammo because just imagine his Seahawk family attacking him at the dinner table. That's what we got to give him. Geno Smith, ask him how Geno's going to do this next year. I'm real curious how Geno's going to do. Ask him what life's going to look like after Pete Carroll. The Seattle Seahawks have their problems as well. The thing that intimidates me about the Seattle Seahawks isn't the team itself. It's that damn city and it's that stadium. That place is hostile, man. I haven't been there, but from what I can tell and even on TV, right, or reading about it, or what have you. Tom, have you made it to the Seattle stadium?
The last one I went to was in the Kingdome still, so that was a long time ago. That was loud, but they weren't as good back then, and their fans weren't nearly as annoying. Their fans are the worst, man. I'm telling you. The team is maybe not my most hated, but I think the fans are one of the most hated. I'm telling you, they're hard to deal with.
They are. Well, and here we go. Are they telling you how good Noah Fant's going to be, Will? I mean, tell them Noah Fant's we're going to whip up on Noah Fant. All right. DK Metcalf, man, that guy's a beast. But here you go. It's a small world, right? I did see that the Seahawks picked up Laviska Shenault, Colorado's own, University of Colorado. I was at his pro day or lack thereof because he's always hurt. But no, I'm going to work with you, Will. I'm going to give me another week. By next or 2 weeks, I'm off next Wednesday. Give me 2 weeks. I'm going to come up. I'm taking a road trip. I'm going to come up with some trash talk for you, for those Seahawks fans, because I'm not going to let you go down like that. You're repping our orange all the way out there across the pond. I got to make sure I at least have your back there. Look at here. I feel like Obi-Wan Kenobi. You ready? No, that's a name I haven't heard in a long time. Todd Ostendorf coming in here. Drew Lock is a New York Giant now. What kind of a mess does he look like now that he's moved to his third team already? Call me crazy, Todd. I could see a realistic opportunity where the fans are clamoring for Drew Lock instead of Daniel Jones because Daniel Jones is playing like a slappy or because he's hurt. I think there's actually a lot of optimism in New Jersey, in New York, if you will, for Drew Lock. Tom, what's your opinion on it? I'm curiously optimistic, but I got to be honest, I really don't care.
Drew Lock is one of those quarterbacks who wows you a few times, so you expect him to be great, but he never puts it together. He throws it to the wrong team too often, and that's just the way Drew Lock is. I was hopeful for him when he was drafted, but his play doesn't warrant the hype. You'll see people on Twitter will see a great throw that he makes, and they're like, "Oh, this is so great, Drew Lock." And then, you put him in the starting role for a few times, and then you realize he just doesn't put the ball where it needs to be all the time and gets intercepted. So,
well, and those aren't people; those are stands. We used to take shots.
Stands.
Yeah. Before you didn't have to deal with as much of it, right? Because Nick would have to listen to me talk about Stan and Drew Lock all the time and combat Stan. And God bless Nick Kendall for having to deal with me. Because again, I had a first round grade on Drew. I was ecstatic when Drew got drafted. Love that rocket arm, right? Well, I've learned my lesson. Anytime someone says someone has a stronger arm, I look a little twice and think about Paxton Lynch and Drew Lock. No, it's an interesting point, Todd. I mean, we as Broncos fans always kind of keep an eye on those that leave the team. I just got done railing on Noah Fant. So, of course, Drew Lock's naturally going to come up. It's interesting. He's on his third team. A little ironic when you think of the Russell Wilson thing too. I don't know, man. It's wild. We're a week or so away, 10 days or so from training camp happening, and you just have to pray for health. You want all these guys to stay healthy. I know we're talking about Tim Patrick. Drew Sanders already went under Achilles, right, surgery or in this offseason. So the Broncos can ill afford an injury at any position.
Yeah. I'm just going to I don't know if you pulled this up. Mike Edel came in with a super chat saying, can't wait for the season, giving us some love. So thanks, Mike, for being here. Really appreciate it. I hope you've enjoyed us yapping about Quinn Meinerz, because we're happy about it. But no, I kind of watch some of the folks that leave Denver, some of the players, see how they do. But as soon as they leave, I don't care. I want them to be bad because I want the Broncos to be the winners, right? So as long as the 32 other teams are bad and the Broncos are good, I'm happy. So, but some of them that you kind of liked, you do kind of watch. I mean, Von Miller, for me, I watched him, go in after he was traded and win a Super Bowl with the Rams, which was fine with me, because he wasn't playing the Broncos, and I wished him well. But most of them, I'm just like, okay, you're off. You're off playing somewhere else. I don't really care about you. So whatever Drew Lock does, I don't really care.
No, I don't either. It's just going to be interesting to see how it goes. It's man, Quinn Meinerz. Life has got to be good if you're Quinn Meinerz and the Meinerz family. A 4-year, $80 million contract extension was announced from the Denver Broncos yesterday on Tuesday. The Broncos have some serious beef up front and a lot of cheddar and a lot of bacon to pay out to those big boys. 4 out of the 5 starters yielding roughly $65.5 million. We didn't get into this. I was going to save it for the guys tomorrow night, but Brandon Ayuk, that name is kind of floating out there on the trade block right now. Kind of makes you wonder, what if? We'll save that for the Mile High Huddle podcast tomorrow, guys. Thank you so much for joining Tom and I on your Wednesday night. I will be off next week enjoying my daughter's birthday, and then we got to hit the road, unfortunately, and hit a funeral. But I don't know. DVA going to fill in? Well, you never know who's going to stop by MHI. Maybe Tom and Dylan going to chop it up. I don't know. But, guys, we really appreciate the show. It was really, really fun to talk Courtland Sutton, Quinn Meinerz, Pat Surtain, Bo Nix, Seattle, week 1. Football is right around the corner, folks.
Absolutely. And like I said last year to you, Luke, don't rush the summer, please. We're going to get to football soon enough. Don't rush it away because, like last time, we're like, can't believe it's already September and summer's almost over. I really want summer to hang around a little bit longer, but I am itching to see some training camp and some actual preseason football to see how this Broncos team is going to. Like I said, there's a lot of question marks. I want to see the makeup of this team. So I'm excited.
It is coming up, and it'll be here before you know it. Tom is right. If you'd like to reach out to our mothership, that's Twitter at Mile High Huddle, over on X, rather. That'd be great. If you want to grab yourself an MHI hat, again, that's mhhmerch.com. Get your swag on. Subscribe, like, and share on all platforms. We really appreciate everybody joining us on Facebook, over on X, over on Twitch, all of your platform streaming services. We appreciate everybody that listens to the podcast after these live streams. If you'd like to reach out to Tom on X, please do so at Thomas Hall NFL. Yours truly at Luke Patterson LP. We got to beef those numbers up on the podcast follow, folks, at MHI_pod. Go ahead and give us a like. And here we go, baby. 2 more weeks into training camp, Broncos country. This is the way.
This is the way.